Thank you very much. Please, I would like you to introduce yourself, and I would like to start with Alice. Alice, kindly introduce yourself, and then Nekesah will go next.
Okay. So my name is Alice, and I'm really just an urban gardener, and have done both large scale farming and small scale. And my interest right now is mainly in urban gardening and teaching urban dwellers how to grow food and beneficial plants using the spaces that they have available to them as a means of contributing towards food security, and just a positive environment that surrounds us.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yes, Nekesah.
So I'm Nekesah Wafullah, and I'm a horticulturist as well as an agriculture economist. I work with startups mostly to just work with them in terms of getting their businesses, their agribusinesses out, and helping them to get, just laying down their strategies, their sales strategy, their distribution and marketing strategies to be able to get into the market. So I work a lot with startups and mostly small scale farmers.
That's fantastic. So let's go straight to horticulture. I mean, what I mean when you talk about horticulture, what does horticulture means, and probably what are some of the crops that people grow? Because you see sometimes you hear of horticulture and you think of flowers, but probably there's also other things as well.
Yeah. So horticulture, by definition, is just an art and science of growing crops, and specifically mostly it's the high value crops or the fresh, the ones that are mostly perishable. So when we are looking at horticulture in general, we have different things that we are looking at. We have various studies of various crops. So we have viticulture for grapes, we have olericulture for vegetables, we have herbs and spices, we have floriculture, which is now on the flowers. And of course, there are other subjects that you can study under horticulture to be specific, like even lawn management, the turf grass management is also part of horticulture. So I always say anything you see beautiful is horticulture. Anything that grows and is beautiful is horticulture. And I attach a very high value to horticulture. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's good. Alice, I mean, as an urban farmer, what are some of the some of the opportunities in horticulture that I mean, before we start obviously talking about urban farming, what are some of the opportunities that you feel are available in the horticulture type of agriculture?
I hope I heard you. The link is really dropping, so I hope I heard you. You've asked what are the opportunities within urban
the horticulture
farming? Generally.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of opportunity, a lot, and the industry or the trade. I think Nekesah would be would be the professor where this is concerned. But I think a lot has changed in terms of the way old guys, old folk used to do agriculture versus how it's done now. There have been a lot of modernization. There's been a lot of development in that respect. But I feel that it has brought about a lot of opportunities, within horticulture, where yes, there is the primary element, which is the production of food. People eat 3 or even more times a day. So obviously, there's the saying that goes that every day you need a farmer at least 3 times. So there's food production, but then there's so many other supporting functions that I feel, especially here in Kenya, we don't necessarily look at those as opportunities for commerce. So, for example, a simple element as soil testing, having people who are able to visit gardens, whether it is urban gardens or farms, and be able to do soil testing, especially for the smaller scale and farmers or gardeners, So it's still such a myth, it's still such a misunderstood aspect of the whole process, yet it's one of the most important components of it. Even things like compost production. Compost is such an important function in the garden, and there's so many other things that are around. Even things like seed starting. It can be done on a small scale. So if you have an urban plot, you can just take a small section and just say, all I'll do is I'll provide producing seedlings. Breaking it down. So I think oftentimes we see agriculture as the final product, which is the tomato or the potato, and not thinking about the surrounding, the surrounding elements. I can see a lot of interest in value add, which is another very important component and factor, and I'm happy to see a lot of emphasis being done on value add as a means of commerce. And so the cottage industry has really taken off. Where before COVID there used to be so many of these flea markets, and you'd have people adding value to do peanut butter, or do chilies, or do all sorts of things. And so you can see that side of things coming to life. But then I think there's still a lot of opportunities within the production, the other side of production, which is, say, for example, producing things like vermicompost. There's so many other elements, different types of soils, like potting soils. And even things like affordable tools, that's another one. Getting tools affordably is not it's not that easy. Most of them are really expensive, and tools for a small gardener, So those are the opportunities within the horticultural arena that support the production of food.
Okay, cool.
And beneficial plants. Yeah.
Okay, and Nekesah, what can you say about that aspect as well?
Okay, when you're looking at opportunities, I think Alice has mentioned quite a bit of that. And probably just to delve deeper into the opportunities that are there in horticulture. Like if you're looking at horticulture, most people just think about crops and that's it. But as Ali said, there's the science behind, the science behind producing what you're growing, the production process basically. So there's so much that needs to be understood, and there are a lot of people involved in just growing that, that cabbage. So when we are looking at soil, we are looking at the soil scientists who are coming in to test your soil. I'm glad Alice has brought that up, and there's more discussion that is going to take place within probably the course of the week, just to guide you on soil, on how to go about with your soil. There's a lot of agronomists who have come out now very clearly trying to push for soil testing, especially for smallholder farmers. We have companies that are out there that actually work with smallholder farmers to give them the soil testing, that service, so that they can be able to know exactly what they are putting into their soil, because we know what you put into the soil is what will give you that particular crop. We also have crop protection. It's very important. We have weed management, which is actually it's a career in horticulture, weed management. So there are people who specifically study weeds. They know which type of weeds. They know how to, what kind of herbicides to use when it comes to protecting your farm on weeds. So it's their career. So we have the weed science study. So it's something else that also is behind this. The crop protection, we are looking at entomologists. We are looking at people who are looking at pests, things like if you're growing fruits, you're looking at fruit flies. There are people who actually specialize in these things. So there's a lot of opportunity when you're looking at just the production. And these are what we call the agronomists. Most of the agronomists, you'll find that they have that knowledge or experience in either crop production. They can manage the weeds on farm. They can do so much on the farm so that they add value to that crop before it is harvested. And even at harvesting time, there are people who are actually specialists in telling you how to harvest. If it's a tomato, it's harvested. Each crop is harvested in a different way. So there are people who actually train you to harvest each crop the way it's supposed to be harvested. I remember being taught how to harvest sukuma wiki, And then several years down the line, I'm told, no, you've been harvesting it the wrong way. This is how it should be done. Because the way you're harvesting it will cause disease to your, there's a lot of physiology that happens that might cause your crop to be, to be diseased, or to actually fail in producing more than what you expect. And you can imagine, even after being trained as a horticulturist, I'm still seeking more information from people who are more specialized in their lines. When you're talking about now after harvesting, we are looking at the value chain. You're looking at value addition. If you're just looking at vegetables, are you going to sell them the way you're harvesting, put them in a sack and transport them on those open trucks to Nairobi? Or are you going to pack them, like maybe weigh 1 kilo, package it, and, send it out as branded products to your customers? Are you going to dry it? Are you going to freeze it? There's so many ways in which you can value add to get more money from your farm. And also in this stage, there are people who are also specialists in value addition. Agriculturists work closely with food nutritionists, and also those who have food technology, that's food technology basically. So they work hand in hand with food technologists and food nutritionists, so that they also get a guide in terms of how to handle that food so that you don't lose the nutrients. Most of the horticulture products are very sensitive. If you cut a sukuma wiki right now, it will not have the same vitamin C as what you got when it was just a whole leaf. So there's various ways in which you can handle it so that you maintain the vitamin C. So these are food technologists who will also tell you, no, you have to cut it this way under these conditions. So there's so much that happens, and there's so much integration in terms of agriculture and other sectors that bring together products on the table when you're talking about value addition. Also, there are opportunities in other sectors that are not necessarily, on farm. We are looking at pathology, crop pathology, and this is more on the diseases. There are people who can actually, analyze a leaf or analyze the roots of a plant and tell you, no, this is fusarium, this is what. I might not have that capability, but there are people who can look at it or even take it to a lab and do more analysis and give you feedback on that and tell you how to probably sort it out. There's also soil chemists who are mostly in relation to the soil. So they'll do the analysis and be able to give you analysis for your soil. This is all in horticulture and partly agriculture. So when you're looking at horticulture, it's more specialized and it's more on the crop production, and it gives you a holistic, approach to producing crops, value adding, so that you can get value for your money, and also you become a specialist. Agriculture is more general. You do animals, you do crops, but for horticulture is more specific and more specific crops. When you're talking about greenhouse farming, then horticulture kicks in because these are high value crops. You have to know how to take care of crops in a greenhouse setup to be able to grow under greenhouse conditions, because that's a very expensive technology. Then you can be advised on which type of crops to grow in a greenhouse to get value for the money that you have invested. So there's so much in horticulture that we can talk even like 20 hours on horticulture. I'm trying to summarize.
Yes, Alice. I mean, you as an urban farmer, and I think that's something that you're passionate about and something that you do on daily basis. And right now, one of the key things is food. You've seen people selling. People have converted their cars to a market. To a small market where they're selling vegetables and all that. As an urban farmer, what kind of advice would you give to people in terms of the crops that actually they can plant right now?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'm saying, I'm saying as an urban farmer, what kind of advice would you give to people right now? Because most people actually, food is a major challenge. What kind of advice would you give them, and what kind of crops do you think are the best for now to plant? I have maybe in my balcony or something like that, and probably what type of what kind of method should they use? Should they use sack, clothes? What's the best way?
Okay, I hope your brief is. I hope I've heard your question. In terms of what an urbanite or an urban dweller can grow or venture into right now is first of all, you know, it's good to look at what are the simplest crops to grow. You know, so you look at something like traditional veggies, things like dania, skuma, you know, leafy vegetables. Those are generally fairly easy and a good place to start. And also they grow fast. Yeah. So again, you know, in terms of time, you know, you save on time and also resources, because these plants require to be taken care of. They require water. They require, you know, and all these other things. And so the faster your crop will grow, the better for you. You know, and then one of the things that I always tell people is to start small. Just pick one thing. Don't go running and saying, you know, I want to do all these 100 things. Just pick one thing and then be confident with it, and then you can go adding, say, another 3, then you can add another 5, like that. And then I always say, if you're growing on your balcony, it's really important for you to consider the environment in which your plants are going to grow. Yeah. So always consider growing an ornamental, because of the element of pollination. You know, so you do want to attract pollinators to your plants. Yeah. So growing food alone may be okay, but it's good to consider even something like marigold, which is a pest control in and of itself, but it's an attractor of pollinators. And looking at things like that, nasturtiums, you know, things like that, which especially something like nasturtium that grows like a weed in Kenya, you know, really a good option to have. And then it is perennial, which means that once you have one in one pot, you're good to go, you know. And also consider the space that you have. Yeah. So if you're going to grow in plastic, first of all, consider what was in the plastic, you know, in terms of, because remember, you're growing food that you're going to eat. So if you're using plastic, maybe the walls, you know, because that is food grade, or containers that had like that. Don't use a container that had soap or any other product that could have had chemicals that would then leach into your soil and you know, get into your plants and get into your own body. So yeah, so sacks are also good, but what were the sacks? What did the sacks have? I know people use what are those sacks called? The ones that have cement. I have my reservations, but then at the end of the day, you know, it's important to consider the full circle of the product and you know what it will bring to you, you know, once you're the one who is consuming it. Yeah. But then now there's the sacks that have, for example, animal feeds. Those are okay, you know. So just having those kind of thoughts in mind, and the most important thing is start slow and be conservative and be patient. You know, it is also quite a process. The fastest thing that will grow will maybe take about 35, 45 days, you know. That's a long time as you're waiting, as you're looking after your crops. But then what I can also say is there are so many resources to work with you. You know, it's really impressive what has been done out there in terms of technology. I think one area that has really gone or really developed in agriculture is the area of technology. You know, like today there's an app where you can send a photo of a sick plant and you get an instant response as to what that plant could be suffering from. You know, you can what else can you can use apps to identify plants. You know, there's so much technology. You can have an app that will remind you when to water your plant, when to feed your plant, or recommend feeding regime, and even using both organic or non-inorganic ways. I use organic because I find, especially if you're growing in a small garden, you really have no reason to chemicals, because number one, you've got to consider the community around you, you know, just the whole safety aspect, the fact that you're using your water system, so many, you know, all these aspects that are around you. I think, and if you're growing your crops in a small scale, then managing them should be fairly easy without having to engage in expensive chemicals. So yeah, and so you also learn how to grow crops that grow well together, complement one another. That is called companion planting. Crop rotation simply means when you're done with one season, change it and grow something else. Just things as simple as that. And before you know it, you can have an absolutely full garden or full production, that can feed your family, and maybe you can even have surplus to sell to neighbors and stuff. Yeah.
Before Nekesah adds something, I would like you to talk about probably pest and disease control for urban farming. What are some of the steps? And just as you've mentioned that a little bit, but could you probably put a little emphasis on that in terms of pest and disease? Because maybe somebody may not know what kind of chemicals should they use, when, and all those kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that you need to do is to be very vigilant with your plants as they are growing. So number one is try and use the best soil possible as you're planting. So maybe it's got a lot of compost, or you've used like red soil and manure. Let the soil itself be healthy. A healthy soil, healthy plant.
Yeah.
So number one, you eliminate. You're going now through a process of elimination, and then in your planting process as well. If you're buying a seedling, it's good to understand where that seedling has come from. Has it been growing in a soilless mix or in soil? If it's in soil, I'm not too sure. I know people buy from these guys on the roadside. They do sell seedlings. You could be lucky. It is well, and we also have to consider the financial aspect of it. But if you can get seedlings that have been started in a soilless mix, then again, chances of success are now even going higher. But if you can start your own seeds as well, things like kienyeji vegetables, these skuma, spinach, those are not difficult. So those you can do yourself, and then you can see you can see the baby being conceived, so to speak. So you start your produce, and then you have to make it a daily routine to at least check your plants in the morning, and just see if there are any signs of either disease or pest, So that, as you're having your cup of tea, just take a stroll and just look, so that, so for example, if you find something like aphids and you catch them early, you can actually just take a liquid soap with water and use that to clean them off, and then you've got to repeat that every 3 days or so. So it's really up to you and how you manage that process. There are inputs or solutions that are organic in the market, and you've got to check that they have the necessary certification, but they are there. They are there quite a bit, and so you can also go for that as an option. Just make sure that you follow all the safety regulations, because at the end of the day, it's about safety for you, your family, and those that are around you. Yeah. But if you keep a keen eye and you observe, another big thing that I think people don't necessarily appreciate is hygiene. Hygiene or lack thereof is a very big factor in diseases. So make sure that your garden is hygienic. The environment is hygienic.
Okay.
And make sure that if there's an issue, check the important thing is to check the fundamentals, and then those fundamentals will explain to you what could be happening with your plant. For example, if your soil is not draining well, your plant will rot because it's water is you know what I mean. Waterlogged. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so you could be rushing to throw some solution at it, yet the problem lies within. So if you have your fundamentals right, most chances are very high that you'll be quite successful.
What can you add, Nekesah?
She's in gardening, she's doing organic farming, so she's better placed, to give more advice on that. But she's very right. You have to look at what your, right from the beginning to, you have to, being a farmer is a full-time job. So you cannot, and I will insist, I think last time I also mentioned the same, you cannot phone over the telephone. You have to be there, watch your crops. It's like watching a patient. So you have to be there, just, witness the germination. If you planted, like for example, I always tell people, you're buying seed, this is hybrid seed, it's very expensive. It's costed by the seed. So if you're planting 20 seeds, you'd expect 20 seeds to germinate, or 98%, at least 98%. So if you're looking at that, then you're also costing. If I planted 20 seeds, I got 20 cabbages germinated. So then I know how to project my cells when I'm going to harvest. So we need to be really vigilant when it comes to farming. We have to be there from the onset till the time you're harvesting. Just work in the crop. And I think even the work of the agronomist, doing those crop walks is very important. Just walking around can save you a lot of money in terms of spraying, or in terms of, pest or disease control. Because once you notice that diseases start in sections, or even pests, they start in a certain, in a certain section of the farm. So if you're able to arrest that before it spreads to the whole farm, then you see it saves you the cost of managing the whole farm under such a disease. The same to nutrition. If you're able to spot the areas that have issues, then you're able to sort out those specific issues. And I think also it brings us maybe to a more high-tech technology that is a bit high-tech, using AI. People are using artificial intelligence to just map out their farms, to know where the nutrients are lacking, to know where the pests are, to know where the diseases are, to be able to treat. Yeah, and I like the fact that she has brought in the aspect of now you can use the internet, to put in you take a photo, you upload it onto a software, and you get results to tell you this leaf is suffering. This leaf shows there's a pest of this kind, or a deficiency. So you're able to be guided as a farmer. But again, it's important to also have an agronomist come to visit your farm, because sometimes software can also be, not very accurate, but we are getting there with time. So once we have, once in a while, get your agronomist to come and walk through your farm, just to advise you and to be able to actually tell you what you should do, because most of these people are very experienced. Then you mentioned about selling at the back of the cars. That's something that we've been doing over years. Even when you go to the market, you find a truck is parked there. So it's not new. It's only that now the people who used to sell these items to the people who are selling in those trucks are now doing it themselves. That's the difference. And maybe what I can advise is the people who are selling these vegetables or fruits at the back of their cars, just to ensure that they have proper packaging for these products. Because we know we are selling to humans. We are not selling even for animals. You pack them well. If it's fruits, pack them in a nice crate, make them presentable. Don't just dump things. Don't dump gunias on top, gunias full of soil on top of the vegetables because you're going to sell. Keep them neat, make them presentable, so that even the people who are buying from you can also appreciate the fact that your fruits are presentable. They can pick them without so much of a hassle, digging through the other, at a sukuma wiki, you've dumped it below some onions. It's very, you have to make it let it look like a real shop, so that people can also buy from you. And let us also ensure food safety. If you're driving, ensure your car is not smoking, because that smoke goes to the vegetables. And we are looking at, I know our fuel is unleaded, but it's never 100%. So we are looking at a lot of contamination. If you're looking at smoking vehicles, the same vehicles, maybe it's an old, you've been keeping this Nissan or a Toyota Corolla there for years. Now it's an opportunity for you to go and sell. You've not serviced it, it's smoking. So let's also look at the issues of food safety when it comes to selling by the roadside. So those are the things that I would like to advise when it comes to selling by the roadside. Yeah.
I mean, Alice, how sustainable is urban farming? I mean, you've been doing urban farming for quite a long time. So how sustainable is it? And also, could you tell us a little bit about organic farming? Because I see you doing that a lot, and also probably about the value addition. And I think some years back when I visited your farm, I saw you were doing also some chilies and all those kind of stuff. I mean, maybe you could tell us more about that one as well.
Okay. Calvin, I don't know why when you speak it gets cut off. The way Nekesah is flowing.
Okay.
So I hope I had the whole question.
Okay, perfect.
So in terms of the sustainability, it is sustainable in terms of it's a niche unto itself, and there's a lot of people who have the desire to and who do grow their own food, have their own backyard gardens, and that community is growing. A lot more people have become more health conscious, and there's this whole movement, if I could say, of just generally being more health conscious, and so people are there and interested in having the ability to grow their own food so that they can control the production, especially what I see mostly is things like herbs and your leafy vegetables and salads, and those I can fully understand, especially leafy vegetables and salads, is because the level of contamination there can be really high, especially as Nekesah is saying, by the time it leaves the farm and gets to your plate, it's gone through a value chain there that has, there's so much opportunity for contamination. And so you're better off, trying to just grow your own so that then you can completely control that. I know I have a good friend who used to throw up anytime she ate lettuce that she bought, from the shop, and she had to grow her own because she just could not have, her body system could not take in lettuce from anywhere, and so she became my client because then initially I started growing for her, and then she learned how to grow it for herself. But then, so that market is there. The other question was, sorry.
The other question was on value addition, and also because I saw you were doing that a lot with chili and all that, and then you can also just speak about organic farming as well, because I know that's something that you're strongly passionate about and you do it a lot. So maybe also organic farming as well.
Okay, so on value addition, like I said, there is a lot of opportunity there. So if you walk into any supermarket and you look at the shelves of food, you find, like if you go to Chili's, you may find even up to 100 different varieties of imported stuff. If you look at things like peanut butters, if you look at jams, if you look at, there's so many opportunities for value addition. So initially, I think a big challenge was being able to overcome KEBS. Because you had to have premises, and the capital outlay was then so high, and therefore prohibitive for many people to enter and just start going to value addition. But now there are so many opportunities with Kirdi and even KEBS themselves facilitating small producers or small manufacturers, if I can call them that, to be able to access this certification and be able to therefore access the market. It's not that people majority of people want to produce bad things. People have good intentions, and yes, there are unscrupulous people who want to package things in the back of wherever, but that's not the majority. Majority of people are honest, hardworking Kenyans who just want an opportunity to be able to produce, a small line of either chilies or honey or whatever it is, be able to package it and sell it the right way. So exactly. This is, you can see now the tide changing when you go to the store, to the supermarket, and you can see a lot more now Kenyan products there. And like I mentioned, these markets had really taken off, especially in Nairobi and now starting in Mombasa as well. These flea markets, and guys will go there and sell their value addition products. When it comes to organic farming, I am very passionate because I have seen. So in 2013, I think, or 14, at the time we were still doing large-scale farming, and so we had an employee who, one morning, he decided to open a packet of herbicide with his teeth, and he started bleeding from everywhere, his ears, his eyes, his everywhere, and he was admitted in Kenyatta for, I think it was 3 months. And honestly, at that time, I was done. I was like, you know what? If this is, first of all, I thought, my goodness, just safety for my own workers. And yet, I had engaged in training. I had a trainer come and train them how to handle this stuff. They had the protective gears. They had everything. So they even had the scissors. So why somebody would decide to wake up in the morning and be so lazy to pick up scissors to cut the packet he cuts with his mouth? For me, I couldn't understand. So that was one of the reasons. I was like, you know what? I cannot afford to have these things in the shamba. But number two was, I said, if it's just inhaling, it's not that he ingested a lot. It was just a whiff, But let me tell you, he bled from everywhere. Even the taxis were having an issue taking him to hospital. And he was taken to Kikuyu Hospital, and they said, no, he has to go to Kenyatta. And so I was like, you know what? If this is what we are taking in our bodies, then I think, there's a problem. And it is even not necessarily about the chemicals themselves, but I find that some of us are a greedy lot. So you find a farmer overusing, maybe, and then, or maybe say it said you harvest after 7 days, this person is harvesting at 3 days. You're supposed to apply it every 2 weeks. This person wants to apply it every 1 week. You're supposed to apply at a certain strength. This person is doing a double strength. So you see a skuma as big as somebody said. Then us as the consumers, we also have a problem because we are the ones who are demanding to see perfect produce. You see, so if you go and you see a small onion or a tomato with some little dots here and there that don't have no impact, you just cut them off. We want perfection. You see, so again, you cannot really blame the farmers. So me, I'm saying, okay, fine. I cannot, I understand. I've worn both shoes, so I understand all sides of this narrative. If you're having a big farm, I don't know. I don't think it's possible to do 100% organic. To be honest, organic is a lot of loss. You have to sacrifice a lot of crops. It takes longer, to grow. Then the output may not necessarily look as pretty as the others that have been assisted look pretty. So you have all those things, So your market may not, and then the Kenyan market has not appreciated the word organic. So even adding price, because you're saying it's organic, they won't nyanyas are 20, nyanyas are 20. Whether they are organic, greenhouse, wherever, nyanyas are 20. Even nyanyas are 20 is expensive. You have to also understand the consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
So with all this in mind, I thought to myself and I said, look, if I can show one person how to grow her own nyanya or her own lettuce, something, and if I can show how to grow it organically, I've done one good thing for that family.
Exactly.
And maybe she can show another one and show another. So that for me is where my passion comes in, or it's just the ability to have people have some control, especially for the crops that can really mess you up, like the leafy vegetables. Buy your potatoes, buy your maize, buy everything else, But then if you can control your leafy vegetables and even your little herbs like danias, and then foods that you eat raw, then you're one step much, much closer and much, much better, So that is ideally where my thinking comes from.
I mean, before we go to the last question that I'm just about to ask, maybe Nekesah, you could add maybe something in terms of the coach perspective. You coach people generally in agriculture. What do you think about what Alice has said? Probably you can add something as well.
What I would add is that we probably we might not be all fully organic. As she has said, there are those who are doing large scale farming, and the commercial farmers, I mean, it's very expensive to actually run an organic farm. We have seen some that have tried, and some have actually closed because it's very expensive. Even just getting the people who understand the organic farming is also not very easy, because people have targets. When you're working in a farm, you have a target. You need to harvest probably 100 kilos of spinach every week, and probably you're getting 20. You see, now there you have to explain why you're getting 20. So they find ways in which they can, apply some of these chemicals or the fertilizers so that they can get those 100 kilos. So what I would advise is probably let's find good ways in which you can do integrated pest management or integrated soil fertility management. When you're talking about soil fertility, you don't exclusively use fertilizers, the inorganic ones. You can try to make sure that you try the organics plus the inorganics, because if you have good chicken manure or good goat manure, good cow manure, then you can actually use less of the inorganic fertilizers. You can actually even take your the organic manures for testing, to just be sure that you're getting the kind of nutrients that are required for the crop production. Then also there are various ways in making, like she's mentioned, vermicompost. Those are things that are actually right now on high demand. So opportunity, and also the way you can use them on farm. If you're looking at integrated pest management, there are ways. She's mentioned Mexican marigold. There are chives you can plant around the farm. There are many crops that you can integrate into your crop production system that can reduce your pests on farm, and even introduce, the nice insects, the beneficial insects like bees that can help you in terms of production. Instead of you spraying, you'll actually be attracting the beneficial ones like the bees, the aphids, not the aphids, the ladybirds, those ones. Ladybirds. And those are things that we can have on farm that are very beautiful. I haven't seen a ladybird in so many years. I think I saw one in my small kitchen garden. I took photos. I was so excited. So we need to see these beautiful things, because apart from just eating, it means that you're eating a healthy product. You also you feel nice. It's therapeutic. Just being in that farm. So let's use IPM, let's use ICFM, so that we can be able to get better products out there to the farmers.
That's really good. I mean, one of the things when we were having this discussion, and Alice mentioned something that I think was quite interesting to me, and she talked about hygiene in farming. And some of us growing up, and even some of us who have small small gardens and all that, you always you want to throw the the leaves of maybe that sukuma wiki you've got, you throw it there. You want to maybe Maggi, you throw it, you pour it there. What are some of the effects of this? Because sometimes we look at them as manure. You're like, you build your potatoes and then you pour the maganda in the farm. Is that really helpful, or would that actually harm my small kitchen garden?
Alice, you go first.
Okay. So that is things that you should never do. Why? Because you can be spreading diseases instead of feeding your plants, if at all that is the intention, that you're throwing
obviously that's the intention,
peel so that it can break down, and therefore first of all it takes so long to break down. So put it in a compost bucket, and let it break down there, the right way, and then invest it back into the farm or into the garden as soil, as something that is actually usable at the time. There are techniques that you can engage in if you really want to put your vegetable peels into the garden, but those are types of gardening styles. So you have to apply it properly. Maybe you're doing like a lasagna garden and you're really doing the layering properly in such a way that it's actually helpful towards the farm. But just tossing like this, it doesn't. It's really not the best thing to do. And then don't forget, not all plants grow well together. So if you throw appeals of a plant next to another one that doesn't, which they're not compatible, then what are you doing? You know, you're creating or you're introducing unwanted pathogens and things like that into the garden. So pouring soapy water again or dirty water. I mean, I always say that look at a plant like yourself. Plants are living things. We are living things. You know, so treat them and handle them like that. Today there's a Facebook group, I mean, for gardeners, and so one person said how she says good morning to her plants every day, and I was like, so do I. You know, I talk to them. I'm like, how are you? You know, are you well? And you're looking good today. You know, because they're living things. You know, so we have to treat and handle them as such. You know, so if you feed them. If you handle them, mishandle them, you know, in a dirty way, there is no way they'll be happy, and there's no way they'll produce for you. So this is where now hygiene comes in, and hygiene simply means keeping the place clean, neat. You're growing in containers, clean them, you know, because this dirt or these germs are will now be the cause of disease. Even if you're using soil, it should also be clean. You know, there's also the element of clean soil. I think Nekesah has spoken about that.
Yeah.
You know, you know, so understanding this soil, where has it come from, what has grown there before, you know. Yeah. So I hope that has answered it, at least from my part.
I think that's really good. I mean, Nekesah, what do you think about that? And because I know that's a behavior that is quite a lot, not only myself, but probably even other people as well.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Alice, and I'll even give an example. Let me give 3 crops: potato, tomato, and the black nightshade, for example. They're all from the same family. So you've peeled your potatoes, then you go and dump them in the farm that has the tomato and the managus. And probably the potato had a disease. You know what happens to the other crops. So just as she said, if you take garbage, what you think is okay for the farm, and just dump it there without allowing it to break down, then you're presenting a problem to your farm. So first you need to have it broken down. If you look at the commercial farmers, when they harvest their crops, they leave the land, you know, to dry out fast. That's one way of doing it. If you have space, you can actually throw it there, but allow it to dry so that it now dries, breaks down, and then you can, you know, plow it back in the soil. But if you don't have, there are easier ways to do. You can form your own, you know, like make your own compost, break it down, then now you can put it back in the soil. But you also have to make sure that you understand how to make the compost, because some people don't know how to do it. It's a process. It takes time. There are things that you have to add. So you have to make sure that you have all those things before you say that I have a compost that I can use on the farm. So let's just try to read more. We have now internet all over. Let's read more. Let's learn how to make these compost manures that can be able to be of use to our kitchen gardens. Also, there are ways of doing it. If you integrate some crops on your small kitchen garden, you might be able to save yourself in terms of reducing moisture loss, apart from moisture loss, just ensuring that you're not losing out on nutrients. You can try to integrate, if you're planting, say, you're planting your danias or skuma wiki, for example. Most of us have skuma wiki in our kitchen gardens, or spinach. Maybe try to do a plant that crawls, say like pumpkin or whatever, in between, just to make sure that it crawls and it's able to cover the ground. But also make sure you also look out for the pests and diseases, because some of them hide under the leaves. So it's an art and a science. As I started, horticulture is an art and a science. Lay your garden in a way that you can be able to manage it. If it's small, try and put crops. If you do dania one row, you can do another row. You can put maybe skuma wiki. You know, make it beautiful and make it more better for you to handle and better for you to manage. So if you integrate some of these crops, you can reduce pest use and pesticide use, and maybe reduce also your application of fertilizers if you integrate them well and use the compost and all these things that we have talked about. So yes,
Wow,
let's avoid dumping. We avoid dumping our kitchen waste into our kitchen gardens. It's not because it's kitchen and kitchen, they go together. No, it's kitchen, yes, but let's first break it down, then yeah. And then also the use of soapy water. Some soaps have a lot of chemicals. If you throw them in your garden, you know what happens. They're being absorbed by the plant. Either you'll put the crop under stress, or the chemicals will get into the plant, then you'll be ingesting them. So let's also be careful, in what we throw on our farm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that was a good conversations, and I mean, looking forward to having this kind of conversation together, probably once every month or probably a week. And yeah, and I think it was just amazing. Thank you so much, Alice, for coming in. I mean, at a very short notice, and also thank you, Nekesah, for always joining. We've had quite a lot of conversation in the Nekesah, and I think it's quite informative, and I've been getting a lot of feedback as well. So I think it's been quite good. And probably maybe you could, as you give your parting shot, probably you can also maybe leave us your contacts, probably your email, or maybe your website where somebody can be able to reach you. And so people who are viewing this video, even after this conversation, they can actually be able to maybe email you or even reach out to you.
Okay. So I want to say thank you very much for inviting me, and we've actually gone into the 1 hour. It was quite an interesting conversation. I really enjoyed myself. I'm like, I'm not ready. I still had to say. So I'm really, really grateful. I'm so happy to have met Nekesah. I can't wait to meet you in person. I think that I would learn so much from you. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you. And yeah, so thank you so much for just for enlightening us and for having us here just to have this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's good.
The time was late, but then okay, so it's possible to.
Now I understand the passion that you have in agriculture. If you're passionate about something, once you're told, you're always available.
Yeah, amazing. To reach me, my number is 0717679178. That's my official number for work. I know, Calvin, you have another number.
Yeah.
And then my website is gardenology.co.ke.
What is the website again?
Gardenology.co.ke. Yeah, gardenology. So just the word garden and then ology.co.ke. And email is info@gardenology.co.ke.
Perfect. Okay.
And then and then so we are on social media. So Instagram, Facebook is the same.
Okay. I hope it's written right. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Thank
yes,
you.
and you and Nekesah?
So maybe just to conclude is that let's all be we call it like police men and women for our farms. Yeah, the way we guard ourselves during security, we could also guard ourselves. We could also guard our gardens, and then also looking at our bodies right now. Everybody is worried about corona, so we are eating well, we are nourishing ourselves, and doing all those things. Those things that you're doing to your body, also do to your crops. Make sure they're also being nourished, make sure they're also being taken care of, so that we can be able to, get the yields from our gardens or our shambas or our farms. Then to reach me, you can get me on Facebook. My name, Nekesah Wafullah. You can follow me there. I do quite a bit of stuff, so you might find me commenting on some policy issues. Sometimes you'll find me in the fashion industry. Yeah, so I cut across various sectors, but mostly my passion is agriculture, where I've been trained. Yeah, so Facebook, Nekesah Wafullah, you'll be able to find me there. My email is tnwafullah. Wafullah has LAH @gmail.com. So you can drop me an email. I'm always very fast in terms of replying to emails. Yeah, and you can also reach me on 0722 68852. That's my official line for which you can reach me on.